and joined in. So, a very warm welcome, everyone, for our fifth session. So, in today's session, we will have Shaivya continuing the uh, Madhyasth Darshan ke mool tak, the basic elements of Madhyasth Darshan. We had done up till point number 23, and then she will actually do from point number 24 onwards. And so after that, we will have some time for question and answer if there are any. And thereafter, we will have the second presenter, that is Drishta. So Drishta will be taking over from that point. So she will today cover some of the initial writings by Babaji, like the author's note and basic postulations in Madhyasth Darshan and so on, and along with the chapter one, right? So she will have two sessions, uh, and we are in a little bit flexible, as you can see, that if the time requires, we will actually run into the next session. So happy to have all the people despite the World Cup final day. So we still have a lot of people joining in today, which actually shows their priorities. So welcome everyone. Yeah. So Shevya, please.
Yes, I will share my screen now. Um, so yeah, last time we completed till the basic basis of ethical policy. Um, I will just reread it, and then we'll move along to the next point. The basis of ethical policy: system for righteous utilization of resources in the form of body, mind, and wealth. So last time I was telling that all the resources that human beings can find are body, mind, and wealth. And to attain wealth, we need to imply the resources of body and mind. And in our body, our mind controls our body. So this is how all these three resources are interconnected. And this ethical policy is required to for righteous utilization of the resources, because we understand that all the resources for human being are given to attain our final goal, to live with righteousness in society. And that is why ethical policy is based on righteous utilization, which will be based on the principles of using the resources carefully, and also not wasting any resource. Then there is this basis of state policy, which will be the system for security of resources in the form of body, mind, and wealth. So, along with using the resources correctly, we also need to secure our resources, because there are resources which these resources need to be replenished from time to time. And that is why we need a basis for the security of resources, so that they don't get um, misused. And Babaji had given in further chapters, he has given this point that right utilization of the resources is connected to the security of resources. If the resources are utilized in correct way, then only security of resources will be possible. Otherwise, if we do not know what is the purpose behind what we are attaining from environment, from nature, and why we are consuming and utilizing them, then we won't be able to use them with uh, purpose, and we won't be able to secure them. So that is why the basis of state policy is related to security of resources. Then we move on to the next point, the path to realization and contemplation. So, how we will be able to realize the nature of sentient and insentient units saturated in omnipotence. That will be when we contemplate on subjects that from gross to subtle, from subtle to causal, and causal to supreme cause. And in Hindi, it is given सूक्ष्म स्थूल से सूक्ष्म सूक्ष्म से कारण कारण से महाकारण. So when we talk about gross body is the physico-chemical world, and from that we need to move to subtle body. Subtle body is our mind and our the atom, the Jivan atom will be or the sukshma, the subtle body, and then from subtle to causal. So from by implying our mind, we need to move to the our greater consciousness, that is buddhi, and in which realization happens, and that becomes the causal mind, because it becomes the cause for our understanding and accepting of all the realities as they are in the universe. And then from move and then we need to move from causal to supreme cause. And in this book, so in this philosophy, supreme cause is been has been attributed to the omnipotent or the omniscient being, that is the Vyapak, that is the space. And why space is called the supreme cause? Because space gives is in the form of knowledge and is in the form of energy, and it is completeness in itself, and that is why all the units in universe are moving towards completeness, and that is why it is called supreme cause. It does not work on itself. It is not an activity, but its presence becomes the supreme cause for the development and awakening in the sentient and insentient humans. And this is the path to realization, and this is also the way to contemplate into the universe, into the existence. I should use the word existence also. Then we move on to the next point, the evidence of awakening. So, how human consciousness or the human conscious will be evident, and how awakening happens. So, the path is from inhumanness to humanness, humanness to defect humanness to divine humanness. Inhumanness is attribute to the human nature, which is selfish and which is cruel, in which we do not really know our reality, and that is why we are and that is why our conscious is connected to other things, like we are dependent on our senses and our body. And humanness is when we find that we are not body, we are in the form of coexistence of body and soul, and that through soul our we want to live in justice, and we do not want to live in injustice. And human we want to realize human dharma, and we we want to we want to protect the humans from adharma, that is virtue and vice. And that is humanness. And from humanness we move to defect humanness. Defect humanness is the is will be evident when human are actually realized about the supreme cause, when we know uh, our causal existence. That is when we realize buddhi and atma. And through defect humanness, we are free from all whatever whatever is not right for human to perform in their actions. We come to know of it completely, and that is why in defect humanness we are completely focused on human goal by uh, putting our uh, mind, wealth, and body into the greater human order or greater human system. And through defect human nature, or through defect human swabha, we are able to find the interconnectedness between individual to in between individual and family, family and society, and society and nation, and then the complete earth. So in this, through defect humanness, our understanding is evident when we are able to establish interconnectedness. And then from defect humanness to divine humanness. Divine humanness is the highest level of awakening. And in this level, uh, it is said that it is a complete awakening. What we mean by complete awakening is that when we have already uh, been evident in all our relations, in all our relation to the nature, relation to human beings, and we are only following the path of truth. And what I have understood by divine humanness, because I accept Babaji as a divine human being. That means he was, I understand that he was the most developed form. Yet he used to say that I am the least beautiful model. But he had the potential to be evident in the form of divine humanness. And this can be seen by how he can express his knowledge uh, through words, through coexistential knowledge, logic, through his behavior, and through the whole structure of complete human order, and the universal order in existence that he has seen, and he is able to explain it to other human beings. And that is why I find that divine human, they live with just by speaking the truth or being evident in truth. And they have already evidenced the nature of humanness, defect humanness, and they have already they have already concluded the uh, n- what we say, the the not like we uh, like inhumanness is not needed, like that. They have concluded that inhumanness is not human nature. So this is how evidence of awakening happens. And then what is the auspiciousness for in existence? So Jivan is auspiciousness, emergence is auspiciousness, resolution is auspicious, realization is auspicious, and awakening is auspicious. So Jivan is auspicious. That means the development of the existence. That means the insentient into sentient. So that is auspicious, because it is evident that there is progress in existence in the form of coexistence, and that then the complete emergence in the form of coexistence in the form of four orders. That is emergence. That means emergence is auspiciousness, auspicious. And then resolution is auspicious, means when human being come to realize knowledge, and they are able to know all the purpose behind progress and awakening. And then realization is auspicious because human know that existence is in the form of coexistence through realization. And awakening is auspicious because through awakening and by being evident through human conduct, we are able to be evident about what how existence is in coexistence, and then only we are able to establish human order. We are able to live in order. So that is awakening is auspicious. Then what is then the 27th point, universal auspiciousness. Coherence and harmony in all four dimensions: work, behavior, thought, and realization. All five statuses: individual, family, society, nation, and world of humans, and the 10-tier family based self governing system. That has been found by Babaji to be the universal auspiciousness, or the true form of the complete, or the uh, insentient and sentient submerged in the omnipotent. And in this form, it is evident. So, coherence and harmony in four dimensions of human beings. Human beings can be the study of human being can be done in these four dimensions: through realization, through human thought, through human work, and through human behavior. So we see that whatever human being realize as truth, and whatever we think, and whatever our mentality is, that is evident through our work and behavior. But in inhuman or the delusional human beings, there is contradiction in how what we understand or realize as truth and how our mentality is. And we express or behave in a different manner. We want the greatest happiness and greatest success for our all the next generations, but we find that we do not have the right knowledge for that and right mentality for that. Whenever we move from being just happy to being happy all the time, like continuous happiness, we are not able to find the right way how to be continuously happy. And that is why there is inner conflict. And so the universal auspiciousness will be in the form of harmony between what we realize and what our mentality is, and how we project that mentality in our work and behavior. And then how our work and behavior is seen in human in existence. It is in as an individual. We work as and behave as an individual, then as a family, then human beings are as in the form of society, in the form of nation, and in the form of world. And so there needs to be interconnectedness in how individual presents itself, and the individual presents themselves to become evident in the greater order, that is family. And then the family evidence itself in to be to be useful or purposeful in the bigger order, that is society, undivided society. And then in the nation and in the world. And this all these five strategies of human beings, they also need to be interconnected in their purpose and resolution. And that can be done in the 10-tier family based governing system. So we find that there is governing system even in the delusional human society. But we see that all this governing system is based on selfish motives and just utilization, careless utilization of resources and wealth, and also to just gain more and more resources. But we all know that just by acquiring materialistic things, we are not able to realize continuous happiness. So that is why we need a 10-tier family-based self-governing system where human being is the basic unit of human order is seen as family. And why family? Because in family, human being is seen as a being that lives in relationship. And if we look at ourselves as just individual, then in individual we only find that human beings are beings that live with relationship, and that is why the governing system starts with family, and then it is 10-tier family based system. That means there is a family in our neighborhood is our family, nation will be one family, and the entire world will be one family. Then the second point, then the 20th point, the greatest auspiciousness. Greatest auspiciousness will be the awakening as a realization in truth. So, liberation from delusion. That is the greatest auspiciousness. So when Babaji is talking about greatest auspiciousness, he is talking about the awakening of entire human tradition. All human beings have the opportunity to be awakened and to realize truth and be evident in it. And through that, they will become continuously happy. And that is the greatest auspiciousness. And that can only happen when we are able to take part in greater human order and um, universal governing system is or the family based self governing system is found to be true evident in as evident of auspiciousness in human tradition. And then 29 point, the accomplishment, the realization in the established value in coexistence, evidence of resolution, prosperity, fearlessness, and coexistence. This itself is universal well. Liberation from delusion and eternal awakening. All of these are found to be the accomplishments to realize the truth, justice, and dharma is in the form of values in coexistence. And then to be evident of resolution, that is all the answers to human problems. Prosperity means to have more than what we need to be evident in human relationships. Fearlessness is the establishment of trust, and then coexistence is the universal order in the form of harmony in work, behavior, thought, and uh, thought and realization, and harmony in between individual, family, society, nation, and world. And then liberation from delusion, to be free from false knowledge and be eternal awakened. And since eternal awakening is in the form of knowledge, this is always available for us. So we all have opportunity to be eternally awakened, and we just need to put our focus on it. Then 30th point, completeness in education. How this accomplishment can happen in through education, and that will be through seeing what is completeness in education. So consciousness development, value education, and technical education. So value education will become the basis of the development of human consciousness. We find that to acquire information and to be more skillful has become the main form of development in today's society. But slowly, I just one moment, my internet got disconnected.
You want me to share?
जी आप कर दीजिए चालू.
Okay, just 1 minute.
So I was saying that consciousness development, value education. So value should be seen as um, value education should be seen as the development of consciousness, because all the skills that we learn and all the information that we acquire is for the greater development of consciousness, and it is a means to develop our consciousness, but it is not development in itself. And what we can see that to understand that human beings live in um, relationship, and that value becomes the basis of development or the completeness in relationship, uh, and uh, this can be done only by understanding value education as the development of consciousness. So that is completeness in education. And then technical education, that to be skillful in acquiring all the means to be evident in the form of um, awakened human being, and to be evident of the development of human consciousness. We see that the more and more there is materialistic development, there is development of materialistic thought in human society. We see that there is a decreasing human relationship, there is um, fall of human relationship, and that is why this becomes a concerning point. Then there is last point, wholeness in tradition. So how we can see that there will be coexistence in all the four orders, and in which human order or human conduct will be evident. Right now, yeah, all three orders, the physico-chemical order, the plant order, and animal order, they are they we see that all of these are designed harmoniously in existence, but only human are not able to find their definite humane conduct, and that is why we are not able to see fullness in the for the tradition. And that is why human education sanskar becomes the wholeness, human constitution, human family based self governing system. So, since human being is the most developed order, that is why the complete order in the four orders is based on human education, human based constitution, and human family based self governing system. Um, this these are the all of the points, and further in all of these chapters it will be more clear. Thank you.
Very nice, Shaivya. You presented it very nicely. This basically made the whole thing very alive. So thank you very much for your presentation. I think just to basically say a few words about this thing. Uh, See what these points are actually saying is it's in a way putting the whole Manav Vyavhar Darshan in a gist, right? It is basically giving a gist of that. What he is, it starts off that what does he actually achieve? What is the anubhav that he achieved? So he starts off with that what is the realization, and it describes that basically the nature saturated in omnipotence is the fundamental nature of existence. Existence is coexistence, and that is what comes into realization. and that is basically is the discovery of one's true nature, right? And that becomes the basis of happiness, peace, contentment, and bliss, right? So he basically, once he sees that actually with that realization, the senses become in control, right? Your senses become regulated with based on that realization. And once that becomes clear, that becomes the basis of humane conduct, because inhumane conduct is all because of senses not being in control. So now the senses becoming in control with the realization, one gets the basis of uh, self-governance within humans, as one individual, as a family, and as a society, as a nation. He basically finds the formula for the self-governance in the of all humans. So then he basically gives that, okay, can we actually uh, take this formula to all dimensions about of human beings, start looking at it from their realization, from thought, from behavior, from occupation. Then he says that, okay, can the language be humanized? Can the food be humanized? Can the society be humanized? Can the systems be humanized? Can the state be humanized? He says that everything that basically can be humanized, and that actually becomes, he positions that is actually the destiny of humankind. That is what they have been wanting, right? So this darshan in a way basically gives a very optimistic and positive outlook towards the whole towards the future, shows the way, and basically says that, okay, uh, there is a core of ourselves which actually can be awakened, and that is something which we can call conscience, right? And it is possible to actually awaken that conscience. And once that conscience is awakened, our sensitivity becomes controlled in that, right? So that then conscience-based sensitivity actually is becomes our way of living, right? And then you basically goes about that, okay, what would be the behavior, what would be the values, that we would live by. So everything actually flows from there, right? So so that is all. So we are all looking forward to listening to further chapters in the book, and I think there are all the chapters, one starting from today. We will our first presenter will be Drishta, who will be doing the first chapter, and I am quite looking forward to listening to all the chapters that we will come. The purpose of human being, what is karma, what is what does mystery mean, right? How do the human systems work, right? What is state? What is society? So it is all basically something that giving the meaning to all these words that are there, and so I would now invite any questions that you might have for Shaivya before we actually switch to the to the new presenter, Drishta. Yeah, Drishta, you want to ask some question?
No, 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 not really.
Okay, yeah. So so I think we'll wait for one more minute for any questions that we might have. We all have appreciation for you. Yeah.
Yes, I have something to. I always have something to. Yeah,
Really?
firstly, really appreciate that you put your head into Manav Vyavhar Darshan. I see it as a big lion with its mouth open. It's very brave of you, and really appreciate the preparation that you've done. I think in one of the points you brought out something like all human beings have an opportunity to realize it, which was in that the greatest auspiciousness. And it kind of set me thinking, and that's a question forever. Will there ever be a time where the whole of humanity will be realized, or we are talking about at any point in time there should be enough opportunities for human beings to realize? I hope I've been able to convey my concern.
See,
Shaivya.
basically, the point is that should there be a absolute vision or not, right? How far that would be is another question. Should there be a absolute vision or not? Right. So, and if an absolute vision is there, and a feasible absolute vision, we can talk about the steps to it. The steps to it might actually take some centuries. That's another matter. But important thing is whether it is possible, whether it is possible to envision a positive world, not a dystopian world that pretty much everybody seems to be showing us. Right. Here it is showing that it is possible to actually understand this world. It is possible to live in harmony in this world. And this is how the world is going to look like. Right. And this is what is our expectation as well. Right. So it is showing a thing, and so we can doubt about that. We can say that it may be too far off, but here it is being said that look, there is a core of ourselves that is incorruptible. And one person is saying that I have actually uncovered this incorruptible core, right? And it is possible to actually, each one of us to actually uncover this. In fact, our conscience is something that can be awakened. And once that conscience based living actually starts, it is possible to live in harmony among humans, to be self governed, right? And once we become self-governed, then everything basically starts changing in the way we are. Our families are, the way the families come together, the way the society comes together, and so on and so forth. It's like the new way of crystallizing of the human society, right? So it is basically giving a vision for that. And I think it is important to actually see that the change, if at all, that is going to come in the humans, it is going to come with their thought only. There is no other way that the change can come about. So if there is a change that has to come about in humankind, then it has to be changing in their consciousness, in their way of thinking, right? Unless their mindset changes, no change outside is going to be bring about any lasting change, right? So here it is basically giving the vision for a positive universe, a positive way of looking at the things, a positive way of looking at the families, an affirmative way of defining everything, that okay, this is what it is, rather than speculative way of looking at it, right? So that's
Well, I'm understanding it as this highest vision is something that we need to keep in mind while we go along life in the practical realm, and because this darshan is not about the do's and don'ts, but it incorporates the fundamentals of living, which draws from the whole existence. It becomes livable. So there is hope that it won't veer towards an idealism centric living which happened in the past, is what I am
right.
concerned.
Yeah, I mean, see, there is a point in that it is not talking about an absolutist, idealistic world that is out there in future, and which is not in this world here and now. It's not saying that. Samadhan that it is saying, it has to be in this world today, now, right? Babaji actually achieved the realization in this imperfect world, right? Not in some other world, right?
Yes.
So So it has to be actually the solutions that we are talking about have to be coming about in the real world with words and all, right? So everything will have to be taken in in the stride. Only then it would be a practical solution.
Yeah.
We are again signing up for another idealistic thing.
Yes, and that's such a habit. It's a cultural habit, and it's come into individuals. And I know I tend to go in that direction often. I kind of don't even realize, and I've already gone there. Then I have to just draw myself out. But yeah, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Didi.
Um, I I would like
Beta.
to add also something to this.
Yeah.
So, uh, as I've understood your question, you asked that how human being. I said that every human being has that opportunity. So how do we come to know of it? So, for me, I am as a student of philosophy. I have been studying philosophy for a very long time, and yeah, the main reason was because I started learning Madhyasth Darshan. I came to know about Babaji, and I came to learn about the bigger view that he had found in human society. Because as a very simple human being, and living in very humble surroundings, we as human beings, we don't think that we will ever be able to know about the supreme consciousness, or we will able to know about how there is harmony in nature, how there is some bigger power uh, that is nurturing the entire existence. I never thought that I will ever be able to learn about these things in my life, and let alone express it through my conduct, through my behavior. But when Rakesh Chachaji says that these are just words for us if we do not understand them, and then we are not able to live with that knowledge, and to bring the tradition alive. So we have already seen Babaji living like that. Uh, Whenever I see how he explains things, I do not see that he's using logic, or he's trying to use materialistic, subjective knowledge to explain the awakened knowledge. He uses his the completeness of knowledge is evident when he is explaining things, and that is why for me that becomes a thing to trust, a thing to have faith on, that if he can do it, then maybe we can also attain that knowledge and live like that. Because we used to live with him, and we saw that what how a realized soul lives with such harmony and such beauty in existence, and that he himself never asked anybody to just keep on debating, keep on just learning the words. He always engaged in conversations to understand the reality. But the way he lived his life, he invoked that knowledge in other human beings, that such knowledge can be attained. There is not just subjective knowledge or whatever sensory knowledge that we acquire. There is more to it, and that was evident through his conduct, and that became the reason for me to learn this philosophy.
Thanks. बहुत बढ़िया. This is very nice. So anyone else has anything, or can we then move to the mm, next presenters? Drishta. Okay, so I would now invite Drishta for as our next presenter. Drishta is a daughter of my wonderful friends Ashok and Sheila. She's from Dehradun, and It's always very nice to talk to Drishta with her knowledge and the insights that she brings. So, so welcome, Drishta, and please lead us with the further work.
Thank you, Rakesh Mama. Yeah, I find it quite an honor to be able to participate in this process of sharing this effort you've put into translating darshan into English, and doing it first for Parichay was also really nice. And then I thought, oh, Vyavhar Darshan is going to be quite a challenge because it's a lot more heavy. So I'm actually welcoming that, and looking forward to also hearing everyone else share their interpretation. Actually, uh, it's quite a privilege to hear everyone's interpretation also of all of this content, because usually we're reading the book, even if we're reading it together in the Adhyan session, but we don't get as much of an opportunity to hear the other person's interpretation and perspective on what is being said in such uh, in such a full packet at a stretch. So, and also to share one's own. So yeah, it will be a fun exercise, and hopefully it will also be helpful to everyone. And before starting, I wanted to just mention a couple of things. Uh, First is that, of course, any interpretation I give of what we read will be based on, as all of us, it will be based on my current understanding of this content that Baba has put before us, and also based on my current skills of explanation. So that is true for every one of us. And in fact, in doing this exercise of preparing for this session, my understanding also became more refined. So I'm sure while hearing everyone else, it will refine some more. And also while discussing yesterday, it was very interesting. So that was one thing. And the other, which I was just reminded of when we started this session today before the meeting started, was this thing about the language that we're reading. It may look like Hindi when Baba wrote it, and it may look like English now when we are reading it. But actually, like Shaivya was just sharing, he's got this full view with an understanding. It's a perspective he managed to develop through this process. And through that perspective, he's seeing reality afresh. And it's given him a lot more clarity on each concept that we've been thinking about for ages as humans, as human society. But because we didn't have that clarity before this, there has been a lot of confusion even on those concepts. So, a lot of the words that we use in our languages, whether it's Hindi or English, often we do use the words, but we are not very clear on what they mean or what they're referring to. So, what he has done is, in writing this whole philosophy in Hindi, he used the words that came closest to what he has seen, and you applied those to describe what he is seeing. And in translating, the translation team has also used the words that in English that they felt were closest, uh, matching most closely to how they were seeing what Baba was sharing. So it may read like English to all of us, but actually it's not really the English we are used to. So that is why, in fact, the entire book is in the system of definitions. So any word that is used is also then defined very specifically in the terms that are more specific and exact and precise from the perspective that Baba was seeing this. And of course, in the translated version, from the perspective that the translators are seeing it. So that is why it may seem a bit odd when reading it. It may sound very weird that this is not what English or is not what Hindi sounds like. Shaivya was sharing that when her father had shared it with Hindi professors, they couldn't make sense of it. And this is how I understand the reason behind that. And it is equally applicable to any of us. So these were the things that I wanted to
Very, very
talk
well
about.
said. Very well said.
Okay. So let's start. I'll share my screen.
Yep.
So after the mool tatva, we have the author's note, which is where I'll start from. And just before we go into it, this is because this is a note that Baba is writing before starting this book on humane behavior and this perspective on humane behavior, this view of humane behavior that he has. This note is also all about it's basically a historical perspective of how our behavior has gone about up till now. And then he also goes on to define behavior a little later, where he's saying that behavior is anything that we do to bring people together and also what we do to keep them together. And so this is a historical perspective on that exercise. And so um, we can get into that now from this perspective. And the fact that he's starting to talk about it from the time ever since humans have emerged on this planet, this whole exercise of people coming together and trying to stay together, a historical perspective on that. So, humans attain societal status and wealth using their physical appearance, might, and intellect. These factors collectively contribute to the emergence of civilizations across various geographical regions with their unique features, and thereupon a desire for mutual harmony arises among them. So here he's saying that humans have this, all humans, ever since we've emerged on this planet, all humans have had some appearance, some physical appearance, some might, and some intellect. But each individual's physical appearance, might, and intellect is bound to be different. And so, based on these natural, ever-present differences among humans, there are these social statuses and wealth emerged based on these differences. So whether they were notions of different status and different wealth based on your appearance, or based on who was mightier or who was more intelligent, what we do see happening across history and across different cultures is that on these bases, we see that these differential statuses and differential wealth emerged in any grouping. So this is the first emergence that he's talking about of inequality. And in fact, the simplest way of looking at it, or the simplest level at which we can look at it, is even at the level of the family that we have first emerged. Because, of course, we see status and wealth inequality in the large societies around us today. But even when human society emerged at first, even there, even say the child that is born has a certain appearance, might, and intellect, and the father and the mother and the grandparents, they have different, and then the siblings in the older generation, they have different appearances and mights and intellects. And based on that, even within the family, you can see this emergence of inequalities of status and in resource, which is wealth. Who has control over more resources and who has more control over decision making. So inequalities of this kind have emerged ever since humans emerged and ever since we were living in families. And even today we can see them from the level of family to the international level. So here families are important, like Shaivya was saying. They're the basic unit of socialization. And of course, then there is the society and the globe and all that. So when we are thinking of this analysis, we can think about it at any of these levels. So these inequalities emerged. And then these inequalities, once they've emerged, we also came up with systems, which he's calling shishtitaएं, or civilizations, or you can say social practices or etiquettes that we came up with to manage these differences in status and wealth. So, who is higher in the family or in society? How will we speak to them? How does the child speak? Who eats first? Who gets served first? Whose decision is taken more, or whose opinion is heard first? All of these various, and all kinds of even nitty-gritties of social practices and etiquettes and civility that we have come up with. to manage these differences in status and wealth. And at all levels, we've come up with this within the family, within the tribe, bands, larger villages, societies, everywhere, and even till now. So these systems, the social practices and civilization emerged to manage these inequalities in every human grouping. And along with that, we also find the appearance of very varied social practices in order to manage geographically particular requirements for our livelihoods and our basic protection. So, say our food, our shelter, and our clothing, and then other requirements that the geography calls for. Based on that, we have come up with a variety of systems. So someone whose culture that lives in the desert is going to look very different from a culture that lives in the hills, and that's going to live very different from a coastal culture. And that's because their geographical particularities demand that they live slightly differently. And because of these particular geographical requirements, we came up with particular ways of fulfilling those needs. So, and all social systems around them, like everything from our, the food that we eat to how it is produced to what goes into, getting that. So, for instance, an agriculturist society will have rituals and systems of belief and religion, even around, say, the selection of seed, the preservation of seed, or the reverence of the harvest. They'll have festivals of harvest in the harvest season, whereas in the pastoralist society it'll be very different. And it's very interesting. I've just recently seen Ankit Bhaiya's movie called Bhed Chal, which talks about a pastoralist society and how they've come up with systems to basically fulfill their role in society as pastoralists and providing the food and the milk to the society, and also the dung of the sheep to the farmers. And then they've come up with so many different systems within themselves and with the farmers that they take their sheep to, through the farmlands that they take their sheep through. They've come up with a variety of systems to manage this sort of a livelihood. And but that also, it's important to note, is very particular. So one agricultural society might look very different from another agricultural society. One family doing agriculture might look very different from another family doing agriculture, because naturally our geographical requirements can become extremely particular also. And then the geographical requirements are one level of particularity that led to particular social practices. And then these inequalities of status and wealth, and our ways of resolving our behaviors around these status and wealth are another kind of particularity, because naturally, if I come up with a system of how to manage different statuses and different wealths in our family, it's going to look different from the system you come up with. Because we're all creative individuals and we haven't identified any universal basis. So we will apply our creativity and it will naturally be very different. But yet it is important to realize the final part of this paragraph is that it was on this basis that this was all because there was a hope for mutual harmony. We came up with these practices by recognizing the differences and the requirements, and despite that we wanted harmony. And so we set up this entire system. Any culture, any family, any grouping sets up an entire system around them to manage these requirements and these differences. It has all been in the hope for mutual harmony. The divisions observed among humans are the result of diversity in their civilizations and an intense expansionist tendency towards ownership and property. Now, in continuation from the last paragraph, where we were talking about the fact that our civilizations have emerged with a desire, with the hope for mutual harmony, yet we see that every civilization or every human grouping with a different culture, different civility, different etiquettes, there's a lot of diversity in it. And then, since there's this diversity also. And then the second factor is that each group also wishes to expand. So there are all these different groups with their particular cultures and civilizations, but each of them wants to, you can see historically, we have seen that each group wishes to expand um, their, what he has called, Baba has called Svatva and Sampatti. Or Svatva is basically what you feel you have ownership on, and Sampatti is your wealth, your resources, or your property. So our Svatva, our ownership includes our beliefs, our values, our perspectives. Whereas, and then the property aspect refers specifically to what we own in terms of material wealth. And you can see that each group, each of these diverse groups has had this tendency, more or less, to want the expansion of also their beliefs and their values and their perspectives, and the domination of their beliefs, actually, and also the increase in the wealth and property of those that they consider their own. And so this expansionist tendency in each group, the diversity first and the expansionist tendency in each group, both contribute to there being these visible divisions among humankind, these divisions of us and them. So the hope was for harmony, but what we have seen till now are only divisions and fragmentation. Since time immemorial, the formation of human communities has invariably centered around the pursuit, Since time immemorial, the formation of human communities has invariably centered around the pursuit of freedom from fear. So he's saying that actually all human groupings, all human associations, forever, the reason that they came together and stayed together was because they wanted to alleviate fear. That was the motivation behind humans coming together. Why are they working so hard? Why are we working so hard despite our struggles and our differences to stick together? The basic motivation, the primary motivation he is saying has been because we feel like we need each other in order to keep ourselves, protect ourselves from these scary things outside. And he is going to talk about what these scary things are. Initially, inventions happened to fulfill basic necessities such as food, shelter, and clothing, alongside violent means to overcome the fear posed by wild animals and natural forces. Now, so the fears that we wanted to alleviate, for which we humans came together, were there were two fears, the fear of natural forces and the fear of animals first. So natural forces are any, the temperature, the winds, the storms, floods, etc. All of these natural forces for which we had to invent and build basic necessities such as food, shelter, and clothing. But then there were also this fear of animals, wild animals, where they pose a threat to our lives if we don't know how to live with them. And to deal with those, we came up with these violent means, which are weapons, in order to basically deal with this other fear of animals. Now, he says, war is nothing more than the utilization of these violent means in conflicts between individuals, families, groups, sects, or communities. The fragmentation in culture, civilization, legislation, and system is primarily responsible for these conflicts. Now, the weapons, the violent means that we developed to protect ourselves from the fear of wild animals, when those violent means become employed in the struggles between human beings, whether it's a struggle between individuals or families or groups or sects or communities, that is what we call war. That is what he is calling war. And when we wonder, why are these conflicts occurring in the first place? So the conflicts are occurring because of these divisions in our culture, in our civilization, in our legislation, and in our systems. So these are words that will get better defined as we go forward, but we can get a general gist of, so culture is the abstract systems of our thought, our philosophies, our perspectives, our values that is shared by a certain group of people. You can nowadays we can even speak of a culture of one individual, in fact, because we don't share values. Even we've realized that we actually don't even share values, perspectives, and philosophies between two people in the more increasingly individualistic societies. This whole thing of I mean, to each their own, and I do me and you do you, is just bringing out the differences in the culture of even two individuals living in the same society. Whereas actually that was not as much the case in more traditionalist societies, or even isn't as much of a case in more idealistic societies, where at least a group of people collectively believe in some prescribed ideology. Even if their interpretations might differ a little, they still agree that we want to understand the same thing or believe in the same thing. But so when we have these differences in culture, that is this abstract thing that is governing our behaviors, and in our civilization, that is our ways of being civil with each other, the ways in which we connect with each other, our social systems and our social fabric, basically. If that is very different, if our legislations are very different, that is the rules by which we choose to function in society and that we have agreements on with each other. And if our systems, the set of these rules in their collection basically is called the system, if that is completely different, then naturally there will be fragmentation and then there will be struggles, because we have to live together. And if you believe that we need to go this way and I believe that we need to go this way, then naturally there will be a conflict. So it is this diversity in our culture, civilization, legislation, and system that led to conflicts and struggles between humans. And when these struggles arose between individuals or families or groups or sects or any sort of community, then we began employing the weapons we had developed to protect ourselves from animals against one another. Furthermore, the expansionist tendency for ownership and property also fuels these conflicts. And interestingly, this expansionist tendency is also actually stemming from this diversity in our culture and our civilization and our legislation and systems. Because if we disagree on this, I will want mine to reign supreme, and you will want yours to reign supreme. So now we both realize that we don't share it. So we will want, in whichever way, to expand our influence, to expand our culture, our civilization, our legislation, and our systems on others as well, whether they like it or whether they don't. There will be this tendency towards expansionism, towards conversion in some way or the other. So this expansionist tendency for ownership and for dominion over the other, and also then for increasing the wealth, the property owned by those that we consider our own, this has fueled these conflicts even more. This is the crux of the matter. So the crux is that natural human differences led to diversity in how we manage those differences, and diversity which has not been grounded in any sort of universality has led to struggle and strife. And this struggle, strife, and conflict is what has continued till this date. And not to forget, the diversity led to the need for expanding our own, or basically exerting our influence. Conflict among humans leads to every organized unit, such as family or a group, justifying their expansion of ownership and property because they believe in superiority of their civilization and culture, which they expound and manifest in their conduct and behavior. And this is true for every sectarian division. Now, because of this diversity and this need to exert one's influence, what we have also done is that in our heads, since we consider ours to be better than the others, and naturally we have to consider ours to be better than the other, otherwise we would have adopted the others. So because we consider our culture, our civilization, etc., to be superior, there is a sense of, whether it's to a small degree or to a large degree, there is a sense of chauvinism that emerges. My culture or my this or that is superior to the others. And because of this sort of superiority and chauvinism, we justify that, we feel that it is justified to then expand, and exert our influence on the others. We're helping them get the advantage of the better culture, the better civilization. That is how we've seen also historically how any sort of expansionism was justified, whether it was through colonialism or through other monarchs before that. That is the way that it has been justified by everyone. So it is not that, I mean, at some level, we often believe that those who are coming to, those who have kind of invaded or infiltrated our culture were evil. But actually, if you look back in history, in fact, you don't even have to look at the level of nation states or civilization, even at the level of families, there has been this tendency in everyone to a lesser or greater extent to expand their influence because they feel that they are justified in doing so. And the reason they feel they're justified is because they feel theirs is superior. And naturally, we will have to believe ours to be superior in order to live according to it. So this is like a domino effect of the differences and the diversity that has emerged from the very beginning. And that's why this has been true. This is a natural culmination in every sort of group, any sort of limited group of human associating. And that's why it's been true for every sectarian division. These historical facts teach us that every sect has had a noble intention to achieve universality. Now, this seems like a really funny perspective to look at it. Like here we're talking about all these violent conflicts and invasions and, impositions. And Baba is interpreting it as a noble intention. And at first glance, it seems like, wow, it seems so counterintuitive. But I mean, once you think about it, it makes complete sense because, we've all been doing it. There has to be some reason behind it. And he's saying that that reason that this has been happening is that there is a noble intention that is universally present in all humans. And that noble intention is to achieve universality. That this particularity of my culture, your civilization, my legislation, your legislation, etc., all of this doesn't really satisfy us. We all want some universality of what we believe and how we live, and based on what we believe, we want some shared understanding, some shared agreement, and collective unity on these matters. So that's why he's calling it a noble intention. So these historical facts teach us that every sect has had a noble intention to achieve universality. A path is now available for realizing it, which has been articulated in the form of Madhyasth Darshan. So he's saying that has been the noble intention of humankind, which has led to all this need for universality, but we have had no way of achieving it. But now we have a path that can take us towards this universality, which is also not imposed. Before this, we've been trying to impose universality, whereas here he's saying that universality is desirable, but it need not be imposed. And the path towards that is what he is articulating in the form of Madhyasth Darshan, or you can call it the mediative worldview. This worldview provides a clear direction from the present based on evidence towards creating a humane civilization, culture, legislation, and system. So that means that this is an evidence-based method or path that he is putting forth, and the evidence-based path is he is proposing that it takes us from where we stand today towards a humane, that means, because since we are all humans, a humane civilization, culture, legislation, and system will be a universally acceptable civilization, culture, legislation, and system. So that is what he is that is what he is going about in this entire articulation of the mediative philosophy, the mediative worldview, Madhyasth Darshan. I have got an auspicious opportunity to present Madhyasth Darshan, which is based on the noble wish to quench the thirst for justice found in every person, satisfy the desire for resolution and prosperity in every family, and attain complete acceptance in coexistence while also striving towards a classless society. Now, here he writes that what we have been hoping for is the mutual harmony. That's what we started out with. The hope is for mutual harmony. What we find is that because of these differences and inequalities, there has not been any harmony. There has been inequalities, and therefore there has been struggle. And so, harmony requires the absence of such inequalities. And that is why he's mentioning a class. He's saying it is only with a classless society that we can quench the thirst for justice that is found in each person, satisfy the desire for resolution and prosperity in each family. Every single family wants to do that. So if there are inequalities and some are able to do it and others are not, that is also not going to be satisfying. So it is only through a classless society that we will be able to be just, that each person wants. We will be able to have everyone has this desire for resolution and prosperity, and that will also be satisfied only with the classless society. And then this complete agreement with coexistence. We've had this universal wish or hope to attain complete agreement with coexistence or complete concordance with coexistence, which is that we all have this sense that there is something like harmony, something like coexistence. And of course, this is a new word. This is the whole of what the philosophy is about. But in one way, you can think of coexistence also as harmony. So even if we haven't understood coexistence before this, we've had this gist of coexistence, and we want without complete harmony, we don't feel satisfied. So we've had this universal kamna, this universal wish for complete harmony, for realizing harmony in every level, every dimension of living. And he's saying that this justice, resolution, prosperity, and coexistence is only possible through a classless society, because it is only a classless society which is devoid of inequalities. Or in other words, it is only a classless society which actually exhibits equality. So, and now he's saying, I have got this auspicious opportunity to present Madhyasth Darshan based on this desire, based on this eternal and universal desire and thirst of humans for justice, for resolution and prosperity, and for coexistence. And it is for fulfilling and for quenching these. So now the question also emerges that we have had this desire for equality, we have had this desire for harmony, but the reality is that these differences do exist. This whole section started with the fact that there are these naturally found differences of form, physical appearance, of might, and of intellect among all humans. That is a reality. So then how can we have harmony when there are these natural differences? In what way will we be able to quench this thirst for complete coexistence, justice, and prosperity, and harmony, and classlessness or equality, if these differences are a fact of life? So that's what he answers in the next paragraph. The essence and elaboration of coexistence itself is harmony within oneself. So he's saying that it is the essence and elaboration of coexistence, which itself is harmony. So what we need to understand, if we want harmony, we need to understand this coexistence. Because when we understand coexistence, when we understand its essence, and we understand how that essence is only elaborated in existence as it exists, then that is when we understand That is also when we understand what harmony is, because they are one and the same thing. The state of harmony is apparent, that is understandable in nature as harmony of form, attributes, intrinsic nature, and dharma. So these are new terms to anyone who is new to the philosophy. How Baba looks at how he is expressing that any entity can be understood is at 4 levels. He's saying every entity of nature has some physical form. It has some attributes or it has some properties. And it also has some intrinsic nature. And it also has this thing called dharma. Now, to understand any entity of nature, we have to understand its entirety. We have to understand those entity in its entirety. And or what we can do is, if we don't understand it in its entirety, we can maybe we can limit ourselves. We end up limiting ourselves to recognizing any entity at the level of its form. So what is a tree? It is something that looks like this. It has a trunk and it has branches and it has leaves that are shaped this way. We can limit ourselves to recognizing entities at the level of their form, or we can grow a little beyond that and recognize that no, not only does it have a form, it also has certain properties, or it also has certain attributes. That means it has certain definite ways in which it interacts with the things around it. So we can also recognize that a tree is something, more specific actually. A tree is something that photosynthesizes or produces its own food. That is a property of a tree. Or more specifically, if you look at a neem tree, we can say that, this neem leaf looks like a particular kind of shape, but also it has certain particular properties that we can identify and recognize, because that's definite. Any neem, from any neem tree, if you take the leaves and you turn it into a medicine in a certain way, it will help with whatever skin diseases or hair diseases or any other diseases for other plants. It may help to cure those as well. So that is a definite property of a neem tree that we can recognize. Similarly, all entities have a form, but they also have properties. It is up to us whether we recognize it or not. Then he's saying beyond properties also. Actually, when we study science and up till biology, we look at the structure and the function. That is a very common term that is used to describe anything. So first we look at the structure of something, and then we look at its functions. Or also often we say that we look at its structure, and then we'll also look at its physical and chemical properties, which is more commonly used in physics and chemistry. Okay, this is the hydrogen atom. It has these many particles around. Well, hydrogen has only one particle around it. And these are its physical properties, and these are its chemical properties. And when you look at it in the same way in biology, it's like, okay, this is the heart, this is its structure, this is where the aorta comes in, this is the vena cava, all those parts of the heart. And this is how each part behaves and how it interacts with the others around it. Those are its attributes, those are its properties. That's what we're calling function in biology. So we can stop there also. I mean, that's one step better than looking at just the structure. I mean, we can all see how just looking at the structure of the heart doesn't allow us to understand what the heart is, because we also have to understand its functioning. But now Baba is proposing that beyond also its attributes, its functioning or its properties, there is also something even deeper, which is its intrinsic nature. And that intrinsic nature is also that something that can be understood and recognized. And there's a lot of elaboration on what this intrinsic nature is all about in chapter 4. So I'll leave it for then. But yeah, you can say that, for instance, the intrinsic nature of a dog is very different from the intrinsic nature of a cow or of a mouse or of a lion. You can see it's not just their properties, but you know that any cow is going to be is overall a kind or non-violent sort of creature, whereas you know that a lion is a violent creature or a cat is a violent creature, and we can recognize that and we can accept it very naturally also. Then of course, besides being a cat or a lion or a cow, each cow will also have their particular properties. So how does this cow behave different from its sister or its cousin or its mother? That's going to be different. And similarly, uh, how does one lion behave compared to the other lion? Or if any of us have had animals as pets, then we will know this difference between the general intrinsic nature versus the particular properties of each animal. And then he's saying that besides this intrinsic nature, also there is something even more fundamental called the dharma of the entity, which can be understood and not, I mean, we'll discuss it a little bit more going further, but in very simple terms, dharma is basically, you could say that its position, the position of the entity in the larger existential order. That is what it is all about. That is its rightness, you could say, or that is what you can never take away from it. So, for instance, for a biological, something that is biological, you cannot take away its property of growth and nutrition. That's not, that is what it is meant for. That is what is right for it. That is what its tendencies are. So that if you stop growth and nutrition from a biological entity, a cell, then it no longer remains biological. Then it becomes material. So when a plant cell dies, we say, actually, when it stops growing and nurturing itself, we say that it is dead. We've already recognized this. Similarly, when there is a dharma also for animals, that when that an animal, its dharma is to this will to live. So when an animal stops exhibiting the will to live, that is when we know that it is dead. And similarly, there is a dharma of human beings, which we will discuss further. So he's saying that actually we were talking about harmony, and he's saying this is to all of this is to explain harmony, and he's saying that harmony is an equality of or an equality at the level of form, of attributes, of intrinsic nature, and of dharma. So I think that aspect of this sentence I'll leave for the next session. I kind of lost track of time. Thought I'd pause it earlier, but
Yeah, good. Love to actually hear more of you. It's going so beautiful. And actually, it is, yeah, the time is something which we will need to honor. And we will continue from this point in the next. I just want to actually just make one observation. See, this whole English thing is like this darshan is now being put into another channel, so to say. It's another mode of presenting it. So it is right now, I mean, I would say that it's like a big hose pipe is there, and a big force of power has come into that small hose pipe that is being connected, and it is spluttering all over, right? It is not yet found the flow, right? That's where I am finding myself. That's what we are actually at. And I think that uh, the exercise that we are doing is to actually make it streamline. Eventually, we should flow with us. We should be able to, we have something important to convey. We have something to tell. We all feel so inside us from the bottom of our heart. And you want to say that this is something that actually has given us some purpose in life. We want to share it with the world, and we see that basically there is some beauty in it. There is something that it can do, right? But I think it is in the stage right now where it is like big power of water is there and a small hose pipe is there. So pipe is actually going all over the place. That is what we are actually doing. But please be patient with us, and we will actually find our groove over sooner or later. But there is no other way, I guess, apart from doing this exercise, right? So I mean, I think uh, I am very happy with the way the things are going. So thank you so much, Shaivya and Drishta, for leading us with these sessions, and looking forward to the next one and the ones after that. So thank you indeed. सभी को धन्यवाद. आज के लिए रुकते हैं, and then we'll all watch the match now.
Thank you. Thanks, Mita, both of you. Thanks, yeah.
Thank you.